I didn't tell many people we were buying a house. Not because it was a secret, not exactly, but because I had learned the hard way that with my mother-in-law, information turns into involvement faster than you expect. News doesn't stay news. It becomes a plan. It becomes momentum. It becomes something that no longer belongs to you. Still, it slipped out over Sunday dinner. "We're in escrow," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral, almost casual. "Inspection is next week." She froze mid-movement, fork hovering in the air. Then her eyes lit up in a way that felt too bright, too immediate, like something had clicked into place behind them. "Oh, that's wonderful," she said warmly. "How many bedrooms?" "3, I answered carefully. "Perfect," she replied, with a tone that sounded less like excitement and more like confirmation, as if a silent checklist had just been completed. I didn't catch it fully then. I felt it, though. A shift. A current under the table. A week later, my husband mentioned, almost in passing, that his parents had listed their house. "That's sudden," I said, trying to keep my face unreadable. "They've talked about downsizing," he shrugged. "Maybe this just motivated them." Motivated them to do what? The question sat in my chest, heavy and unwelcome. I wanted to press further. I wanted to demand clarity. But I didn't. I didn't want to be the suspicious one again. The one who reads too much into everything. The one who anticipates storms before clouds appear. Inspection day arrived cold and painfully bright. The house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, sunlight spilling across the driveway like a promise. If everything went well, it would be ours. The inspector was already inside when we pulled up. So were my in-laws. My mother-in-law. My father-in-law. My husband's sister and her husband. They stood in the driveway like they were waiting for a guided tour, hands in pockets, smiling in anticipation. "Oh good, you're here," my mother-in-law called, waving. We didn't want to miss it. My stomach tightened. "Miss what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "The future," she said with a radiant smile, gesturing toward the house. "We can finally all move in together." I laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was sharp and involuntary, the kind of laugh that escapes when your brain needs a second to recalibrate reality. When something is so misaligned with what you believe that your body reacts before your mind can. She looked at me, confused. "What's funny?" I glanced at my husband. He had gone pale. "This house," I said slowly, "isn't for everyone." The air shifted. Subtly, but unmistakably. My father-in-law frowned. "What do you mean?" My mother-in-law's smile thinned. "Well, we sold our house. We assumed pooling resources made sense. Shared expenses. Family together. It's practical. Practical. As if we were discussing a corporate merger and I had missed the board meeting. "We never discussed that," I said carefully. "There was no need," she replied gently, the way someone corrects a child who doesn't yet understand how the world works. "Family plans together." Before I could answer, the real estate agent stepped onto the porch holding her tablet. "Quick clarification," she said professionally. "For paperwork purposes, who will be listed on the title and mortgage?" The timing was surgical. "Just the two of us," I answered immediately. "My husband and me." The agent nodded. "And occupancy will be limited to the listed parties." "Yes," I repeated, steadier now. "That's correct. It affects insurance and loan terms," she added. "Additional permanent residence would require disclosure." There it was. Not emotional, not personal, procedural, documented, official. My father-in-law crossed his arms. "We were going to contribute financially." "That's generous," the agent replied politely. "But financial contribution doesn't alter ownership unless formally structured." Formally structured. I watched something recalibrate behind my mother-in-law's eyes. Sentiment had reached its limit. Paperwork had entered the room. "You knew we sold our house," she said to my husband, not to me. "You said you were downsizing," he answered carefully. "You never said you expected to move in." "We assumed," she said. "That's the problem," I replied quietly. "You assumed." Silence followed, heavier than before. Inside, the inspector called out something about plumbing. Ordinary sounds of due diligence carried on while something far less ordinary unfolded in the driveway. Then she looked at me differently. Not warmly, not angrily. Assessing. "So where are we supposed to go?" she asked. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't quite a plea. It was something in between, a test of whether guilt would do what assumption could not. I don't know, I said honestly. But it's not here. The agent excused herself and went back inside. The process resumed. Measurements, notes, documentation, reality asserting itself in ink and signatures. My in-laws lingered a few minutes longer, then left without another word. On the drive home, my husband stared out the window. I didn't think she'd go that far, he said quietly. I know, I replied. Because we've let her before. It wasn't an accusation. It was an observation. A pattern finally named. We closed 3 weeks later. His parents found a rental across town. Smaller than their old house. Temporary, they said. We see them sometimes. There's a new caution now. A layer of formality when conversations drift toward space, plans, the future. The house feels different than I imagined. Not triumphant. Not dramatic. Just defined. The rooms echo slightly when empty. The third bedroom remains an office. The locks click firmly into place at night. Sometimes I think about that laugh, how it escaped before I could contain it. It wasn't disrespect. It was recognition. The instant I understood how easily independence can be rewritten if you don't state it clearly. Boundaries aren't loud. They're documented. This house was never shared. It was ours. And now, finally, it's written that way.